Zoom CEO.
It works.
Yeah, it works.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so welcome to Fellows Fund Summit 2021. And today we're gonna have a fireside chat between Yuan and Xuedong Huang. And before the chat, so I will give you a brief introduction about the Fellows Fund and our fellow community. Make sure everyone's, people online is from Zoom, so you guys can listen. What do we say, right? So you can hear. So Andy, if you check with them, okay. Yeah. So I think this fund, the goal is to actually is to build a new tech entrepreneur community for AI, and yeah, so this fund, this community we build actually is for the benefit of fellows today in the future. So our model is different from traditional or maybe typical venture capital. We're actually focusing on building a community. Hello? Hello? Sorry. Hello? Yeah. Okay. So the reason we use this different model is because that we observed. So even most of people, like everyone, believes the power of AI, but the knowledge of AI is not evenly distributed among everyone. So then that's the reason, like you look at the venture capital industry, only less than 10% of investors actually have an advanced STEM degree. And compared to more than 50% founders, AI founders with PhD degree, right? So then it's not surprising that you try to explain some complicated AI terms to investors. Oftentimes they look confused, right? So that's the reason we build this skilled community. And fellows, our fellows, and also everyone here today, you guys recognize the true power of AI. You understand the problem, you understand technology, and being able to work together so we can unlock the potential of our network and expertise, and to identify and support and invest and support the future of Google, Facebook, Amazon, Zoom, and in the AI space. So that's really our mission, is to build this skilled community to support the future AI startups, right? And along the way, we're gonna distribute 2/3 of a majority of the profits, at least 2/3 of the profits back to the fellow community. So that is our goal. So next. And how our fellows actually being able to be with the pros and support entrepreneurs, mainly from 3 angles. The first one is startup sourcing, or either we can call it deal sourcing. So people here, our fellows and you guys, oftentimes you have your friends, you have your coworkers, left the company and pursue their dream and build their own startups, right? You know them more well, and you know how good they are, right? So you actually have a deep connection with them. So share with us, and refer those companies with us, and share your insights about them with us. So that's very valuable. And the second thing is the due diligence. As you share those long-term vision and the knowledge of critical problems. So the long-term vision and the knowledge of critical problems is crucial, which is crucial in the evaluation stage of those companies. And most importantly, so once we invest them, then we are able to help them with the hiring and the customer networks and refer them customers, right? And to help them to reach to the next milestone. So that's the value of this whole fellow community. And as of now, we already have 8 distinguished fellows joining us as experts from different domains. Fellows like Xuedong Huang, and CTO and technical fellow at Microsoft Azure AI, and also IEEE and ACM fellow, and VG, where's VG? VG and ServiceNow and Chief AI Officer and SVP of Engineering and ServiceNow, and he has been an expert in enterprise AI, cloud AI, and Charles Erkin, who was UCD professor and the former managing director of machine learning at Goldman Sachs, and also first Amazon fellow. And he's an expert in machine learning and also AI for finance. And Xuedong Huang, who is a research engineer at Instacart, IEEE fellow as well, and top expert in NLP and PDD, knowledge discovery, and anything related to those space. And Stefano, who is a fellow and VP at Adobe, and expert in AR and also AI plus AR. And Li Yang, VP of engineer at Twitter, and expert in search recommendation. And Gang Hua is VP of Chief Scientist at Bilibili, and the former Chief Science Advisor at Microsoft, and IEEE fellow as well. And he's expert in computer vision and AI for IoT. And Azure, who is CTO, VP and Stanford Children's Health, and expert in digital transformation in healthcare industry. So we have a combination of the different expertise, like in either AI or either domain, different domains. So we're actually looking for the more fellows, and one angle is horizontal, like experts in different AI, methodologies and tools and marketplace. And another angle is vertical, the AI in finance, transportation, healthcare, and e-commerce, all different areas, right? So next, the daily operation of this fund at the community is actually managed by me and also Andrew, and both of us are entrepreneurs, also involved into many AI investments. And 2 other businesses we built. One is Financier, one of the top AI talent recruiting agency in US, and we have been working with more than 300 startups, AI startups in the last 5 years, and help them build up the team. And another business is CrossMinds.ai, which is AI research and the paper and the code community. And we actually have lots of AI researchers, engineers, and visiting our website and learn from those contents like video, paper, code, right? So together we try to be the builder of startups rather than investor only, right? So we actually, once we build a company, invest a company, the second step we're gonna work with them for the critical hiring and also customers, acquisition of customers. And here's our first investment, the Insight Fund, which is AI for AI ops company, targeting to solve the IT outage problem. So the founder is a professor and you see NC State, and Professor Helen Gu. And also we led this round of $2 million investment, and also thank you for the investment from Eric as well. And we together try to make this company a great company in that space, and also working with many clients right now and for their critical hiring. So here's call to actions for everyone you can do right now, and the things you can do is first, and introduce those companies you are familiar with. As I mentioned, either founded by your friends or coworkers, or you're reaching out by those companies for their opportunities, right? You know them well, and you can share those companies with us. In our website, you can just click this button, you can refer those companies to us. The second is to be a pilot customer, try our products from services from our portfolio companies, and refer, hire, and provide advice. So I think making AI a reality is not an easy task. As we just now we had last conversation, 2-hour conversation about this topic. I think we need tons of startups and in this community and entrepreneurs being able to try and keep trying, right? So I think maybe 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 50 years later, so when we recall the things we do today and the things we initiate today, I think probably we're going to be very proud of ourselves that we build this great community that support each other and bring all of the minds and all of the resources together to make those companies succeed, right? So that's everything about the introduction. Thank you very much. And next, I will introduce our two top tech leaders in this space. And Eric and Zoom has been one of the greatest companies before and during the pandemic to help us communicate and talk to our families, friends, and co-workers, right? So really bring the happiness to us. I think that's the slogan for Zoom, right? So to us and for now and for the future. And Eric is a great tech entrepreneur, and I believe his sharing of this journey and also the insights about AI is going to be very valuable to us. And Xuedong Huang is SD, CTO of Microsoft Azure AI, and also has been a top scientist and the tech leader in this space for almost 30 years, right? So really try to make the machines see, hear, and understand human beings, right? So I think that's very important things for him to share all of the insights about AI and how to apply AI to the different space. Okay. Without further ado, thank you very much. Let's welcome Eric and XD. Thank you.
Sorry. I was so impressed. Alex running the problem running on Zoom, and Eric actually just jumped in and fixed all the problems. Of course, most importantly, he got Alex pay for the upgrade. That's a combination of technology, product, and business.
Without carrying anybody.
That's the whole reason why I came here. Let me upgrade.
I don't need this one, do I?
Yes.
Can people hear? I need this one. So I flew here from Seattle this morning because I heard Eric would be here. That was one of the main reasons. I took the risk of dealing with the Delta variants in the airplane. But I think it was fantastic.
I took the same risk to let my wife not very happy because we have something else. Alex told me that Xuedong, he's going to fly here. That's the reason why I have it. It's a great agent.
That's the power of agent. And you heard the story, right? And to be serious, really, I think Eric is a role model. Just an amazing story, how he went through the journey, created the company that really just inspired so many more entrepreneurs in the whole nation and in the world. So it's really great honor for me to have this fireside chat with Eric. And I hope we're going to make this fun.
Yep, why not?
Yeah. So unfortunately, I have to hold the microphone and read the long list of questions.
By the way, Alex did prepare a script. I will say no script because I know this Xuedong very well. He's my great friend. And if you guys feel free, if you have any questions, right? I'm not a technical leader. He is technical leader. I'm just an engineer or salesperson, right? So, and feel free if you guys have any questions, about either AI or anything. If you don't have a questions, we and I can keep talking because we know each other very well.
But I will answer the first question.
Maybe I ask the first
All right,
question.
okay.
You are the technical leader, right? So we talk about AI. I think you have had such an inspiring career in AI world, right? Even before everyone understands what's AI, right? So,
This meeting is being recorded.
Now officially started. Everyone was didn't count.
so what was your dream that began this whole AI thing?
Really, I think I started my graduate study at the Tsinghua University. And I have to be in the AI field because I thought AI was cool. I'm sorry, I forgot that I'm about my people. So I started my graduate study, and at that time, we really had a hard time to type into the keyboard because it was written for the design for the Western language. So I thought, well, just talking, then you can dictate. That could solve the problem. So I didn't realize it was so hard. It took us so long for the whole community to solve the problem. That's how I got into the AI. So I want to thank Tsinghua University for what they provided with the vision, insight, and support that really sustained for my 30 years non-stop research and engineering.
By the way, Tsinghua University is probably the #1 university in China. You know, he can get in, meaning you already prepare well for the AI research work.
Now it's my turn.
Yeah, sure. And any questions, feel free. Let's not look at the script. You know.
Okay.
Feel
So,
free, guys. Yeah.
Tell us about your Zoom journey, and was that because of the luck or something else that got you so successful?
I think I moved to Silicon Valley in 1997. Because by the way, I was not a good student, and I even cannot go to Tsinghua actually when I was in China. So when I was a kid, I was always inspired by all the stories here in Silicon Valley, and like HP story or Apple story, and always thought about, hey, someday maybe I should, move to Silicon Valley to take a look. And 1997, I moved here. And over the, since 1997, more than 22, 23 years now, I think, I did know a lot of very successful entrepreneurs and leaders, and given there are so many successful companies. And since I moved here, at that time, I already thought about why so many companies successful, why is lots of startup companies fail. And based on my personal research, I think this is my formula, personal formula. I think you look at the startup, and I would say, first of all, a group of good people have a good idea at a good time, in good place, with some good luck. So that's the formula. So when I started Zoom in 2011, I knew for sure, someday in the future, luck will play a very important role. I just don't know when and how. But I know one thing is, if you keep working hard, be patient, the luck will come. So, and that's the formula. But however, if you're not patient enough, maybe the following week luck will come, but you already either sell your company or maybe already pivot to do something else. So be patient, hard work, wait for luck. So that's the formula.
That's a very, very inspiring. So the luck will only bless people who are prepared. So I heard that you are the best engineer who actually knows how to sell your product. So what is the secret of achieving both?
Actually, if I start over, I'm not going to start off from being an engineer. I would like to start from being a salesperson. So, and the reason, seriously, and quite often, you know how to build a product and to sell the product. I think we will take even more efforts, right? And it's also, and I would say that's the arts, especially for the startup, the founders, right? As I think it's very important, don't always look at the product. For sure, when you start a company, you start from product. But very soon, you should shift your company culture to go to market focus. And after a while, and back to the product, should take the turn. That's very important. So because if you really want to understand what's going on from a customer side, you have to spend as much time as possible talking with the customer, right? And also, for sure, you want to sell. I just sold, this one account to Alex, right? And it's very important because it's a company to culture, not about the sales, really about how you understand your product, understand your customer. And then you kind of bring back those feedback to your team. And, when it comes to innovation, the ways, for innovating is really not about, hey, he and I, we talk about some cool ideas, in the lab, in the conference room. It's really about you are the first vendor to understand the customer's pain point and come back to be the first vendor to build a solution. That's it, right? I think that's innovation. That's why you have to spend the time talking with the customers. Today, I spend probably more than 50% of my time on go-to-market.
So in terms of creating that go-to-market strategy, what is the most important factors and advices you have for the startup community?
I think a startup from AI for sure is very important. So, and it's a very hot area. So I think in terms of go-to-market, I think it's very important that, start from your product, right? Product itself is the best sales vehicle you can leverage, right? Quite often when customers, they are using your product, every day they are using your product. If your product works, it word of mouth, right? They are going to share, the greatest things about your company, your product. If a product really sucks, I was don't do anything, don't build a sales team, don't have a marketing team, go back to fix the product. Right? That's everything starts from product. And after that, I think step by step, build the, your go-to-market machine, either from marketing or from sales. Don't, do everything, at the same time. Meaning, if your product is ready, immediately hire lots of salesperson, build a big marketing team, a big customer support. I think it's not work. Step by step, right? And gradually, build your go-to-market, team. Plus, when it comes to pricing, make sure you really do not need to let AI to understand the pricing, right? You got to simplify pricing. Make sure the K-12 school kids, they can understand pricing. Make it very, very simple. That's probably the common mistake.
So what is your company's business people versus R&D people ratio? Is that a secret or you can share?
No secret. Even on day one, we always plan it that way. So around 1/3 are engineers, 1/3 are sales or go-to-market, and the rest of hopefully less than 1/3, focus on some other things.
I see. That's great. So now let's get back to AI, because this is the group of people who are really dreaming to.
I have a lot of AI questions for you, and
So what is
maybe I can start.
All
AI,
right. Okay.
so
Okay.
That's better because it's I think seriously, you look at the AI. I think a lot of people told me that Xuedong is probably one of the top 3 or be top 2 or maybe top 1 AI expert in the world. And I do have a lot of questions. Seriously, I think you work for Microsoft, right? There's so many giant players in this space, AI. If you look at a startup, what should a startup company do? Where the success, right? Because so many big, companies invest heavily to AI. Any advice to the startup founders, right? If you really want to start an AI company.
Yeah, that's a great question. We had the fellows, all the fellows meet. We just met before this meeting. There was a great discussion, and all the fellows provide a fantastic insight and their points of view. So my personal view is probably a little bit different from the rest of the fellows, because I came from Seattle. I think the cloud AI companies, 3 players, Amazon, Google, Azure, they all provide fantastic AI services already. They all invested the millions of dollars, billions of dollars to really create that pre-trained AI services. So my advice to the people who really want to really create the next AI breakthrough, or the company that can have impact to the society is really identify the problem. Could this be a very niche space, a vertical space? So I should talk about the Stanford Hospital. They really have, this passion problem that they're dying to really solve. So marrying the real problem that the society needs with data you can get, because the AI today requires a tremendous amount of data. And you can use either open source or Azure AI services, like cognitive services, to really focus on that last mile, provide amazing solution. That's probably the one I would, if I have to do this myself, let's say I got fired by Microsoft, I would just start using Microsoft AI services.
We all will invest you if you do that tomorrow. Yeah. We know for sure you'll be very successful.
So that's my suggestion. It's amazing. Azure Cognitive Services is really just providing a tremendous amount of services, whether it's a speech recognition and the neural text-to-speech, computer vision, language understanding, translation, and or business decision. The example is really, just think about the European Parliament, and they have 24 official languages.
Wow.
When you debate, how can you bring the citizen closer? Azure AI is the only company in the world today that can provide the 24 live speech translation services. And no others can really support all 24 official languages spoken in European Union.
That's awesome.
And we also provided, they did a first phase evaluation. Azure AI Cognitive Services, I'm not doing commercial, this is all fact, had the highest quality among, they only benchmarked English, German, French, the highest quality for the live translation among those three. So they are in the second stage trying to decide if they want to use Microsoft, Azure Cognitive Services, or the European companies. There are only 3 companies in the run. We are the only American companies left.
It's great.
In the final decision.
The first thing I learned today is the 24 languages. I have no idea before. So
right, no other companies, not Amazon, not Google, can support all 24 at this point.
That's amazing.
So that's my suggestion. But I would ask, with your wisdom, amazing achievement, what's your advice?
I think for AI, especially for startup companies, because we talk about AI as sort of like a buzzword for many years. I think look at so many greatest AI startup companies, right? Either you focus on technology, right? Make one component, take a live translation, for example. We just acquired a company based in Germany, right? Because you have a technology for the language translation, we acquire them, meaning either focus on very niche market, or I think, focus on some real problems, right? Focus on the real problem. Otherwise, the AI is too broad, right? And let's take a healthcare, for example, right? There's so many areas, right? I think you can focus on AI, like AI, and expert, Professor Fifi, right, in Stanford, right? Talk about how to, let's say a patient, in the nursery, right? You might fall down, right? Before you fall down, right? How to predict that based on the AI? A lot of things like this, right? Focus on a real problem, and then with the AI technology to build a solution. I think that probably that's in terms of ROI probably is better. Otherwise, you just focus on the technology itself, and I would say it's kind of the future is sort of limited.
Yeah, that's great. So specifically for Zoom, what can you share with us? Your AI approach. How is AI going to really further improve Zoom experience?
Yeah, so we just, as I mentioned earlier, we just acquired a company, right? For the live language translation, make sure no latency, and also make sure very accurate, right? This is AI, right? Also look at our core technology. I think one thing I realized sometimes I have a group call like today's call so many people. Let's say when you switch the topic or talk with some sales, you really want to understand, right? What's the feedback, from audience side in real time. And sometimes, how to, set, let's say, it's just a very simple feature and face detection, right? If you and I switch to a different topic, and based on face detection, based on AI technology, we can understand, oh, maybe actually the audience or most of the audience, they may not understand what we are talking about, right? And give us real-time feedback. Or maybe after the, let's say, meeting is over, if I missed this meeting, ideally, and we can leverage AI to generate the meeting summary, right? No matter what kind of a topic we talk about that. It's hard. And if you talk about, let's say, healthcare, or maybe talk about different area, it's really not accurate today, right? How to leverage AI to generate a very accurate meeting summary, right? No matter how long the meeting is, right? 1 hour, 2 hours meeting, actually could be very useful, right? Imagine any meetings, just 1 minute meeting summary, and also text-based. I think there's a lot of things we're working on, and for sure we also can partner with you with the Microsoft, and to leverage some of your AI infrastructure to build some application level AI functionality upon your platform. That's also we are very interested.
Okay, that's great. Given the pandemic challenge, the Delta variant is back again. LA will be locked down. So what is your thought about the future meeting and how people should be communicated and work?
I cross my fingers. I hope all of you will continue using Zoom even after the pandemic crisis is over. And for sure, video communication will stay, because the reason is that the future of work is really about a hybrid work. The way for us to work, to live, and learn or play is completely different. You really cannot force your employees to go back to office 5 days a week, right? Also, 5 days at home also experience not good either, right? So, because of mental health, a lot of other things. I think, however, when it comes to hybrid work, it's very tricky, because different companies might have a different definition. 3 days in the office or 2 days off, 2 days in the office, right? Do you want the employee make a decision? Or another biggest problem is, let's say, 2 of us were sitting together in the conference room, and other people who joined remotely, they might not a part of this conversation, right? And traditionally, the remote side only see the one view, only see you and I together, right? How to leverage AI, to automatically analyze, oh, there are 5 people in the conference room. From the remote side, they can see all 5 people. Each of those 5 persons, will be displayed very well on the gallery view, right? That's AI. Will address the big problem. And also, like you have lots of branch offices, like virtual receptionist. All those features, I think, certainly can help to support the hybrid work. Again, this is some new area. If you have some AI technology, given what's happening, I think this is sort of like an inflection point, right? From a traditional 5 days in office to the hybrid work. This is a market change. And then whenever there's a market change, you can think about how to leverage technology, right, to address some real world problems. Then you can start a company. I think that's a lot of opportunities, I think, for in this area.
That's a very good insight. So what do you think of the hardware for the future hybrid working environment, and specifically like a 3D display and HoloLens device like experience?
Yeah, it's very important. I think ultimately, I think in the future, the video communication like Zoom can deliver a better experience than face-to-face meeting. But today we are not there yet. But 3D conferencing certainly can help. Imagine the world in the future. You are sitting somewhere in Seattle. I'm here in the Bay Area, and we can leverage 3D conferencing. We feel like we're sitting together here. I shake your hands, you feel my hand is shaking. I give you a hug, you feel my hug as well. I think that's the AI and also 3D, the sensor or 3D hardware can certainly help, like HoloLens or Facebook, Oculus. I think all those probably the pioneers of the AR or VR hardware. For sure, there will need some technology breakthrough, right? For those hardware to become mainstream. I do not think those hardwares are ready today, but imagine 5 years, right? I think a 3D conference room or 3D conferencing certainly can play a big role.
That's great. In the short term,
maybe I can ask some questions.
All right, okay.
So, yeah, okay. I can take a rest, right? I think, of course, you mentioned machine learning, right? We all talk about machine, translation, machine learning, NLP, all those technologies, right? So I always, wanted to know, and what have been the most, the exciting approaches, right? We could talk about the machine learning or machine translation on NLP. What's your insights?
Well, they're really just amazing breakthrough. Almost every year, you can see something phenomenal. So let's take the translation as example, right? So translation went through the journey using rule-based solution in the 50s.
Yep.
Then they switched to statistical machine translation, pioneered by IBM, Watson speech researchers. Because the speech guys, they actually did that one step ahead over the language processing. So Peter Brown, all those people, they just moved from speech group into natural language group. So statistical machine translation really changed the game. And then they moved from statistical machine translation to neural net-based translation. So that just had another lift. So that the neural translation really is the state of the art, but within the neural translation, the architecture changed from LSTM to the transformer-based one. So Google published this: attention is all you need.
Yeah.
If you don't pay attention, you don't get a better translation. And so that has actually been evolving. Then the most recent one is Google G-Shot. They actually even created an even bigger model. Just is the trend, like from rule-based to statistical machine translation to neural nets and to the even larger model.
Yeah.
And you can see the quality is getting better and better and better. So that transformer-based solution actually has the encoder-decoder architecture.
Yeah.
And then a lot of people just took that encoder, they created a bird. They didn't actually decode. That is the large-scale language model. That is magically transformed the whole natural language processing. Now you can see GPT-3 is just one of the largest model. China also got that Wudao 2.0 and outperforming GPT-3 in terms of the size. So just the innovation time is almost like 12 months. Every 12 months you see a step function in terms of horsepower and the quality. That demands tremendous amount of computing and the data.
I see.
So there's a combination of many things. On the other hand, you still need to fine-tune the model. Even with GPT-3, if you don't fine-tune, it will not be as good as you fine-tune. So we have been working with OpenAI, trying to host this GPT-3 as part of the cognitive services and offer that fine-tuning capability. That will open the door for almost a large number of new scenarios. So we're pretty excited.
But you talk about those technology models. I always wonder. So in terms of commercialization of AI, what are the main roadblocks, right? Where could it be? Where could the breakthrough be found?
So I think AI is as the ingredient has been broadly used. I know Azure Cognitive Services is broadly used within Microsoft product, whether it's Teams, Xbox, Windows,
and Zoom too.
Yeah, fantastic. So we love that adoption. It's actually, just as I said, even the Twitter Spaces, I have Lei here from Twitter. This is the one that is actually similar to Clubhouse, but different. Every conversation is being transcribed by Azure AI. And most people, they even don't know, because we are the business providers. We're supporting the business to actually make them more successful. Our mission statement is very clear. Enable every organization and everyone on the planet to achieve more. And they don't need to know this is Microsoft. We're very happy to be behind the scene.
Cool. Love that.
Yeah.
Question to both of you, because I think you have a fantastic perspective, technical and a business. So what do you think are Eric, you talked about roadblocks, right? So what are the biggest challenges for AI right now? And what are the biggest challenges you think will be in 5 years from now?
So I would say even with pre-trained model, like it's getting bigger and bigger, and the serving cost is just phenomenal. Without fine tuning, it's still not good enough. So this creates a tremendous opportunity for the startup opportunity.
Can you repeat the question? People might be hear the question.
You can
Just go ahead.
yeah, just go ahead.
No, hear the microphone.
So
Just go
they
ahead.
didn't hear your question,
Right,
and
so-
I think it's better for you to just
Yeah, exactly.
take that microphone. Where's that microphone? Yeah, here it is.
All right. So my question for you is, what do you think are the biggest challenges for AI right now from like technical and business perspective? And what do you think will be the challenges in 5 years?
Okay.
That was
So I would say with the pre-trained model, without fine tuning, without the data from the domain, it's still not good enough. So that actually creates tremendous opportunity for the startup community, because you guys will know the problem space domain better than the horizontal platform player. If you really get into the domain, get the data from the domain, and fine tune that, you create the best solution, better than anyone else. I know this company in China called Robotics. They specialize just to check the green energy windmill, because windmill usually is in the place that's very hard to reach, very expensive to send people to really inspect the quality. They just fly the drone and specialize on the quality inspection, and that saved them millions of dollars. What's even better, they added the ability to repair. So if the propeller is problematic, if you do not repair, the cost will be very expensive. So they have mechanism just to repair or automate it. So it's a niche. It's just a great example. If you understand the domain, you specialize in that, that will create hundreds of different opportunities for all of us.
Yeah, so I could add on to a little bit. I think you look at the from business perspective, look at the problems today, right? I would say you take a Tesla autopilot, for example. I'm a huge fan of Tesla. However, how can you guarantee to leverage AI to make sure that technology is extremely accurate, right? It's not 99%, it's almost 100%. You feel very safe anytime, anywhere, right? Autopilot always works, right? I think AI certainly can help, but not there yet. I think that's the biggest problem. Back to the point I made earlier, right? How to leverage AI technology to truly address the real-time problem, right? That's the biggest challenge. Today, I would say, you look at AI, it's more like, internet of 1995, right? Everybody understands, right? It's huge, bright future for internet. Only until I would say iPhone was born or browsers was born, right? I think we need some technology breakthrough, either hardware, software, or technology or framework, or maybe and we have tons of engineers working together to leverage AI to address all kinds of AI the world problem like climate change, right? I think we are waiting for that moment. It's not there yet. Maybe it may not be 5 years, could be 10 years. Yeah. Thank you. It's a great question. Yeah, feel free for any questions. Otherwise, we're going to chat to something else. Okay. Yeah.
So, microphone, please.
You actually have to repeat the question.
Yeah.
Just let him ask a question with the microphone.
Microphone doesn't work.
Yeah. We can repeat.
No,
that's
it's
fine.
not working.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We'll just repeat.
Yeah. So you said something very interesting that for startups, they should find niche areas where they can find all the data and have core competency, because Microsoft, Amazon, and I work in Amazon, by the way, so have invested billions and billions of dollars, and they hire like lots of famous scientists, so they have an advantage in the broader AI area. But one thing I can relate it to is even Zoom. Video conferencing, I guess, existed before 2011. Like Microsoft had a video conferencing solution even before that. But Zoom was able to come in and beat the existing players in video conferencing. So question is for Eric. How did you figure
big corporations who might already have solutions for video conferencing? And is there anything we can learn from that in the AI space?
Okay. So the question is about the question to for me is really about how could I figure out a way to compete against those the big players who already have the product. Any lesson learned, right?
Yeah.
I thought you work for Amazon. You better have a question for competitors. So I think first of all, that's a great question. This is one of the key reasons why when I started a company, nobody wanted to invest in me. Because they say, wow, this market is so crowded, there's so many big players, and how can you put it off, right? I think, first of all, when you start something, really don't look at it from a competitor's perspective. Otherwise, you really cannot sleep well, right? And you even do not dare to start something. You look at everything from an end user perspective, right? Back to the point you made, right? A niche, area, a niche market, right? So when I started a company, I understand at that time there are so many free products already there, out there in the market. However, when it comes to video conferencing quality, everyone sucks, everyone, right? Nobody was happy back then. So I thought that's a niche market. If I can build a better solution and address that video conferencing quality problem, I might survive. That's one way to look at this. Another way, from broadly, I always told some young graduates, right? If you do not have an idea, to start something, always think about, can you start a restaurant? The reason why is, you look at a restaurant business, extremely crowded, right? However, I think if you and I tomorrow, if you lost the job, right, we can start a restaurant with very delicious food. It's great service. Plus, when you pay the bill, extremely affordable, much better price than any of other restaurant. I think you can survive. That's exactly our approach. Always think about a better product, a better service, and a better price. And keep doing that. And also be humble. Always build a trust with the customers. Because you got big companies, this is great, right? However, in terms of speed, you might figure out a way to have a faster, speed of innovation, right? And then still can win. And I'm not saying you can beat them, but don't think about beating them. Think about what you can do to serve customers differently. I think that's a way to survive.
I want to add, Eric, you have this amazing ability to make your customers happy. So it's more than just you have delicious food, you have good service, and you have lower price. But you have this amazing ability to somehow touch the heart of your customers. They're willing to work with you. So what's the secret?
That's a great question. I think when it comes to making customer happy, the number one thing is you got to build the trust, with customers, right? There's so many solutions out there. Why will this customer pick up your solution, right? I think you got to start from every interaction between your business with customers. You don't always think about, I'm trying to sell Alex something. But think about how to build a trust, right? From every interaction, from sales calls, from support calls, if it's escalate anything to you, and or maybe share everything open and transparently, right? Your roadmap, ultimately, if you build a trust, customer very likely they are going to, stay with your service, right? They are not going to switch to others. I think every day you think about the trust. I think that's a way and to deliver happiness to customers.
Question. I think your company is ranked as the first diversity company. I think your executive is also seems comes from like a different race. I think how do you for your team, for your founding team, it seems how do you like what is your standard to recruit your initial talent to company?
Yeah, his question really about how to build a diversified team, or how to recruit the talents, right, with a different background, right? How to manage them. Is that right? I think when we started, actually, we only recruited lots of engineers. That's pretty much, right? I think really do not focus on diversity back then, because you do not have a product yet, right? So where to recruit the best talents to quickly get a project done. At that time, I did not think about that. But very soon after you have abilities, back to the, the point I made earlier, to build a trust with customer, right? You cannot only always focus on your product anymore. Back to our company value. Our company value is just one word: care. Meaning care about the community, customer, company, teams, as well as ourselves. So number one thing is got to care about the community, right? So when it comes to community or society or the country, you got to think about it broadly, right? And how to embrace talent, how to be more inclusive, right? You got to make sure every employee, no matter what kind of background they have, no matter which company, which country they're coming from, always respect their culture, respect their point of view, right? I think if you talk about innovation, quite often you have leaders or engineers from a different background sitting together. I think that's where the innovation comes from, right? That's very important. But meaning, from your perspective, if you're a startup founder, you got to think about how you can build a diversified leadership team or management team, right, to drive the business, forward. That's very important. But that's more like a phase two. Phase one, you need to get a product down first, and then how to grow from there. You need to make sure focus on the company culture. Essentially, this is back to company culture, right? What kind of company culture you want to build, right? That's very important. Yeah.
So back to the diversity, I want to add, diversity got many different dimensions, right? So you have people who cannot actually see. You have people who cannot hear or do not hear well. You also have, on this planet, I don't know if you know, there are 7,000 languages spoken, 7,000.
Wow.
So that is a very diverse community. But 95% of the people speak only 5% of that 7,000 languages. So there's a long tail. So what is your vision to address that broad community for everyone on this planet?
AI. First of all, I learned we have 7,000 languages. I think this is a great question. I think first of all,
7,000 spoken languages.
Yeah, 7,000.
Yeah, not the written.
Yeah. I would say you got to take a step back to really understand what's the problem, right? The customers or users, what kind of problem they are facing, right? Like you mentioned, like say, disabled person, how they are going to leverage the technology, right? We build a technology, if we do not think about accessibility, I think this is really, I would say, not healthy. Also, you can not build a trust with the customer. Like we partner with the University of Washington. They have a very good accessibility lab, right? And the reason why we spend time on, working together with them is really focused on how to support all those, disabled person, right? Like say, for those people who might have a hearing, capability, right? How to make sure you add those features, to your product to support those people. So first of all, you got to understand the problem. As long as you understand the problem, you will have so many smart engineers, right? And plus AI, so we can build a solution, right? The number one thing is you got to understand the problem. Quite often, you do not know those problems. This is the problem, right? So if you understand the problem, and then you can recruit engineers with the technology or people, I think you can work together to come up with a solution. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I just want to ask you some hypothetical question, if you don't mind. Let's say you didn't do Zoom. What would you do today?
You mean
what
today?
Happen,
or,
yeah,
or
today.
back in 2011?
Yeah, let's say Zoom didn't happen.
Yeah.
What is your hypothetical answer?
To make you happy, I would start an AI company for sure. So, and also, fellows fund will invest in me. That's the ideal, scenario. And but seriously, I think, let's see, if I start over today, I would say first of all, I got to look at which market I want to focus on. I think healthcare, and that's probably the first of all, you got to look at it, what's your playground, right? More like you play sports, right? I think the healthcare is huge opportunity in the next 20 or 30 years. And I'm not going to elaborate why, because you all understand, right? So this is very important, right? And but how to build something, I would say, find a niche market again, right? Address a real problem in the healthcare industry. That's very important. Like like recently a new company who just went public, Doximity, right? Probably some of you heard about that. They built a doctor for LinkedIn, right? They added telemedicine, telehealth. Does address a real world problem, right? I think a lot of areas, like predictive medicine and telemedicine, remote care, and genetic sequencing technology. There's so many things in healthcare. I think, yeah, again, I will pick up healthcare and to do something if I start over today.
That's great.
Yeah, I will invite you to join me together. Yeah, so we understand the problem with the VI expert, with the VC. I think that's a success formula. So.
That's great. So back to AI, for the company you just acquired with Alex Weibel and his team in Germany, yeah. Are you able to share more information about what you plan to do with that?
Yeah, first of all, the reason why I acquired that company is not to compete against you, okay? And we respect Microsoft, respect my friend, and because we look at AI talents, quite often, today look at the AI problem, and we understand the problem. We really want to come back to do some research, right, to have a solution. But you look at all the engineers, you realize, gee, most of them, they do not have AI background. What can you do, right? I think one way is to really acquire those the startup companies with great AI talents. That company you mentioned, they are based in Germany. Actually, their background is from CMU, right? Similar to your background. It's great AI, engineers, AI leaders in the world. That's the reason why I acquired that team. We have some other, big plans in the future. Overall, it's talents and some of the core technologies. Yeah.
Okay, that's fantastic. So.
Can I ask two questions here?
One question is better, step by step.
Sure.
So when you do not have a good memory. So
yeah. When you started Zoom, it's actually the market has already had several offerings there, including Teams or Skype for business and Polycom, all those meeting scenarios. You just mentioned that if you want to get successful in the market, you need to provide some differentiation. So what do you think the differentiation is? What's back then Zoom provided, which enabled Zoom to be so successful?
Yeah. Your question is really about when I started the company 10 years ago, there were already so many solutions out there like Microsoft, Polycom, so on and so forth.
Right.
And what's our key differentiation, right? By the way, there's no Teams back then, so just correct you a little bit. So sure. There was a Skype, Google Meet, or WebEx, Google Meeting, or Polycom, so many solutions. All those solutions were built before to address the different needs of the customers, right? Because WebEx is a data collaboration, Skype really about audio, right? And Polycom about hardware. Google Meeting also similar to WebEx about data collaboration. Back then, camera, it was very popular. Almost your phone, your smartphone, and at that time, you look at a video conferencing, still not mainstream yet, right? Quite often you need to deploy a very expensive hardware conference room gears, right? I think how to, make video conferencing to be a mainstream service. It's not that easy. Ease of use is number one thing. It's so hard. And number two thing is really about quality. Especially you have a participant coming from say, India, China, or South Africa, right? The quality not there yet, right? Number three is really about the stability. Quite often your audio is very choppy, right? And the video quality not very good, right? So a lot of issues like that. So in particular, I spent a lot of time talking with the customers. I was corporate vice president at Cisco at that time, managing the Cisco's collaboration software development. I can tell you, I did not see a single happy WebEx customer. They all complain, right? And then I realized, wow, given that, maybe the world doesn't need to have a new solution. And that's why I said, don't be scared by all those solutions or bigger competitors. You spend more time talking to customers. You are the only one to really understand the customer people. So, yeah.
That's great. My second question is that with Zoom
Can you
being so
speak a little loudly?
You can repeat the question, that's okay.
yeah.
Okay.
But we cannot mimic you, right? So you got to.
Not at all.
Yeah.
So with Zoom being so successful, I mean, often a company would take a second strategy of expanding from your business core. Like in your vision, what would be Zoom's next extension with your business core being so successful?
So your second question read about, hey, you start a company, you have a core service. What's your strategy for your, for the new revenue stream, right? In addition to the core, what's your second or third revenue stream? This is what, right?
Yeah, yes.
I thought this is a question for my friend. So, and this is great questions because I learned a lot from other, successful entrepreneurs and CEOs. Like one of our board member is Peter Gassner. He's a Viva, co-founder and CEO, right? And a lot of other companies like ServiceNow, Salesforce as well. If you want to, start a company, for sure you need to focus. That's very important. Don't build too many things, right? You got to focus on one thing, get it done extremely right, and then you think about you might go public, right? And before you think about going public, if you only have one service, is pretty, I would say, tricky. The reason why is because you really cannot deliver a happy surprise to Wall Street, right? Ideally, you should plan for the second revenue stream, 2 years or 3 years before you go public, right? We always thought of that. That's why, back to the 2013, the 2 years before we went public, we were planning for the second service. And looking back, we always think about how to balance focus and the future new product, new revenue stream. It's very tricky. I do not think anyone can give you a greater formula when you should do that. But you got to look at it, beyond what you have today, and you got to look at the future, right? If you only have one service, you look at a ServiceNow. It's a great company. It's a great example, right? When they started very small, right, and they focused on the IT department. But later on, they're very smart, leverage the same platform, and they deep dive into the HR department and customer success, all other departments. Essentially, something similar to Salesforce, right? They start with CRM and then the platform, a lot of other new services, right? You can learn from all those great companies. I think we just started. I do not think Zoom can, I can share a lot of great ideas, but learn from like a ServiceNow or Salesforce. The Workday, same thing, right? Start from a financial department. Now they have HR department solution.
Thanks.
And your question.
I have a question for Eric. I use Zoom for everyday meetings.
Make sure you pay for that. Thank you.
But I have to be honest that I've never heard of Zoom before mid-2019. I just checked my calendar. I met with my students on Skype when I was in China in January 2019, like all the meetings on Skype or Google Hangouts. And at some point, I think probably mid-2019 or December or late 2019, I started to notice. And then suddenly we switched to this Zoom like just forever. Right, so and I think two things I love about it is one is this you don't need an account for it, so you don't have to like others to have a Skype account to have a call. Another thing is that you have this meeting room, which you can join at any time. You don't have to call somebody and let the other person to pick up. You can join first, you can let other person join first, and you can join later, so on and so forth. So there are a few features that we really love, and so I was surprised that the company was created in 2010. So I wonder whether there's anything that this might be a little bit, I don't know, like it could be just me, like I heard of it very late, but I wonder whether there's anything that changes this dynamic so fast around this to 2019 or 2020, or maybe there's a pandemic as well, which also helps a little bit for Zoom to stand out. But I wonder whether there are any other things that make Zoom to win over Skype, Google Hangouts suddenly so quickly.
Yeah. So, by the way, to the audience in online, his question is about Zoom indeed better than Skype. I'm kidding. And so his question really about, are there any other key features, right? And that truly help Zoom stand out in all the past 2 or 3 years, right?
Yeah, especially the past 2 or 3 years.
Especially the past 2 or 3 years. I do not think anything changed. In particular, you look at our product, right? We just keep innovating, right? We have a lot of things in the pipeline every day. I spend 50% of my time talking with the customers, understand how they like Zoom, why they do not like Zoom, why they cancel the service, what we can do differently, and are there any things we can do more, right, to build a trust, to help them. And I really do not look at the competitors, and because we are already very busy. There are so many things in the pipeline, and the customers are waiting badly, for those new innovations, right? If there's one thing I think that truly help us is, I think back to your first question, luck. Last year when pandemic crisis, hit us, and the schools, right, the K-12 schools, they also need an online classroom solution, and you look at all other solutions all of them, and Zoom has all kinds of features that can certainly help, like a breakout room search features. And plus, when we all work from home, there's another small feature I call a very subtle feature, is the virtual background, right? Without that feature, really hard to turn on the video. Even for myself, I don't want to show you my messy kitchen, right? The Zoom was the first one to come up with that solution. Back to last April and March, and if I use any other solutions, very likely I'm going to turn off the video, right? A lot of smaller features like that really help us. But again, there's a back to luck, timing. But later on, for sure, other solutions, they copied our features, right? So
it took them a year or something.
Yeah.
My question is about telling a story. The more complicated the product, the harder it is to tell a story. It's with AI, especially, it's easy to talk about the inputs, the outputs, something happening. But I wanted to ask you, when you talk to your investors or customers or employees, how do you have any advice on how to best tell your story?
That's for you.
Okay. So your question is, when you talk to your customers, partners, investors, employees, how to better tell a story, right? That's a great question. So, and then first of all, you should understand what's the purpose of telling a story, right? And sometimes, maybe you want to, let's say take an investors for example, right? And ideally, don't tell a story, share with the investors about why you think you can build a better solution. What's the customer pain point? You think you know better than any others. You think you have a capability to build a solution. If you can share something like that, I would say that's a story, right? Or if you hire a team, right? Quite often, for something very important, either your company culture or your value or mission or your product. And if you want to communicate well, yeah, sometimes you tell a story. Like back to Zoom, right? Early days, I tell them, why we believe, we can build a better solution. Because I did share a story because I tried almost every product. Right? I tell them why this product does not work, why that product has a problem, why that product, really broken, right? Plus they all, got the funding from investors, right? This is a part of the story. Overall, I think, if you really understand the purpose and why you want to tell a story, I think, probably you can share some real life experience, especially your personal experience. That's very important.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I got a question for Xuedong. Yeah,
perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, and first of all, thank you so much for sharing all these very stories. My question is about buy or build AI solution. So on the one hand, there are a lot of mature AI solutions, just like Microsoft. But on the other hand, as I mentioned, people who are close to the problem know the problem best, and they have potential to provide the best solution. So what would be the factors you consider when it comes to build or buy?
Okay, so the question is, what is the advice to build versus buy in evaluating those two options? What are the pros and cons? Right. So I think this is so complicated. Depends on what the price point is. If it's not expensive, to buy is always easy. You can afford. Why do you want to worry about building something that you can buy easily, right? So there's always a price return of investment point that you're probably the best decision maker. Depends how much money you have. Microsoft acquired the Nuance. $20 billion. And, we decided to buy because, it's easier to get into the healthcare, right? So we love the solution they have. And the AI will augment what we have on Azure AI. So we will actually penetrate that market. So really, there's no simple answer. You have to evaluate your situation. Depends how much money you have, what is the time to market, and if you talk to engineers, I guarantee they say buy and build. Otherwise, they have to review someone else's stuff, and then they have to worry about the integration. It's never fun. Engineers, they love creating solutions. But as a business leader, I think Eric is probably a better person to answer. So you ask the wrong person. I'm always in favor of building and the best solution we could actually make. I believe actually we can make a better solution than most of the other solutions out there. We just aim at creating breakthrough, the best solution, that the relentless pursuit of excellence is in the DNA.
Actually, his real question is about if Microsoft will buy his company. That's the real question. But anyway, if you try to build something, don't think about sell your company too early, and just keep enjoying, right? And build your product. It's very important. If you start thinking about sell the company, I think it really cannot go very far.
Yeah.
That's the next person.
Okay. Yeah, I have a question for Eric. So, we are using Zoom every day right now. So we love it and we also hate it. We love it because it's the best technology we have. But when we hate it, it's not we hate Zoom, but we hate those online meetings. And to be honest, we still don't feel all the quality is the same as like the real life meeting here on the Zoom meeting. So you guys touched about some technologies, future technologies like 3D, VR, AR, those technologies. But those are probably not able to be done by Zoom, right? Those are other companies. So from Zoom's view, from your vision, what will you guys will do to bring the gap between the online meeting and the real meeting?
Yeah. So his questions, he's a fan of Zoom, really like Zoom, never hate Zoom. And I'm kidding. His question really about he likes Zoom, what we can do, and to bridge the gap between the real-time experience versus online, video conference experience like Zoom, right? I think today we are more like day one, in terms of video conferencing or video communication, right? I think really not there yet. I totally agree with you, right? Like we did not see each other for a long time, right? As I mentioned earlier, and in a real time, in-person meeting like this, I can shake his hands, right? Whenever I talk with him, for sure he understands what I'm talking, right? Sometimes the internet infrastructure not there, right? It's probably audio chopping. However, imagine today is a day one, right? And that's the reason why, and there are so many opportunities out there for startup companies, also including us as well, right? How to support, even if the internet is really not reliable, how to leverage AI, right? To make sure your audio not chopped, right? Even the big, huge data loss rate, let's say 50% for audio, 50% for video. For sure, we do have AI engineers working on that, right? If it's very unreliable network, we still can maintain a good quality of video, right? And audio as well. Seriously, there's AI technology behind that, right? And also, live language translation. Today, sometimes, if you have a town hall meetings, right? Employees coming from other countries, and we still need to have a live translator, right? Because the AI technology is great, but it's still not very accurate sometimes, right? I think, imagine that's the word, right? And that's why technology or on startup companies, AI or a lot of things can help. You got to always think about, hey, fast forward in 10 years, what will the world be, right? That's very important.
Let's give a turn to the Zoom users. Okay, there's a ton of questions in the chat window. So Andy, can you repeat some?
Sure. One of them comes out. This is for Eric, which is when you were building your company and building the trust for your main customers, how did you balance taking the individual customer requirements and balancing engineering resources?
Yeah, that's a great question. I do not need to repeat the question anymore, right? Yeah,
No need.
Good. Thank you. So, in terms of balance individual customer requirements, against the engineer resources, as one thing is very important, especially you have more customers, and every time, again, you want to build a trust, but human nature is that customers would like to tell you what to do. Right? They want to tell you, you should do this, you do that. You should, should be red color or blue color. They always want to tell you what to do. Essentially, they want to share with you the solution. I think the trap is that you listen to a customer, just to do whatever they want you to do. That's not right. You got to take a step back, really understand what's your pain point. Why you want me, to have a red color, for this UI, right? Understand the pain point. If you understand pain point, quite often, even customer, 5 different customers, they tell you about 5 different solutions, ultimately could be one solution, right? Let's just take a step back to understand the customer pain point. Don't focus on the solution, that's number one. Number two is, balance the engineering resources is very hard, right? Because there's so many the things. I think especially, don't focus on too many things, right? That's why when you start, don't start from, I want to build a product for enterprise, also for consumer, also for developer, not only for North American market, but also for Asia, for Europe market. I think that's not right. You got to start up, very thin and focus on one area, get it done extremely well. Let's say just focus on US market, just focus on enterprise, or maybe just focus on one department. That's the best way to balance. Otherwise, you focus on too many things, no matter how many engineers you want to hire, you still cannot make everyone happy. I do seriously, if you do not do that, customer, they may not know that, let's say you build a solution to serve 2 customers, right? Your solution not ready for him. Ideally, don't release that solution. You still can, make this customer happy in the future. But for now, your solution not ready, if you are released to this customer, guess what? A better reputation, right? It's not good, so.
We have actually more questions, but I want to just ask Eric a separate question. So 10 years from now, what is your vision for Zoom? What do you think the experience is going to be? What is you're doing to actually achieve that vision?
10 years is too long, actually. let's
5 years.
Yeah, 5 years. Let us think of 5 years. I think first of all, just to purely look at it from our perspective, we really want to transform our business from being a video conferencing killer app company to become a platform company. Because when we started from enterprise, and now there's so many consumers, prosumers, even K-12 schools who are using Zoom platform today, right? How to support all kinds of use cases. That's very important, right? Not only do we support enterprise customers or government customers, but also how to support the consumers, right? That's very important. Make sure Zoom is a platform. And also, ideally in 5 years out, when you try to use a product like Zoom, you even do not realize that's Zoom. Like you are using ServiceNow, right? Zoom should be seamlessly embedded into that platform. Or when you and I using Zoom in the future, we really do not need to start a Zoom call, do this, do that, right? Essentially, you and I can play games together on Zoom, right? It's one click, we play games together. Also, we can see each other, right? That's a platform play, right? That's one aspect, and look at the vision in 5 years. Another aspect, look at the Zoom in 5 years. I would say, hopefully, our dream is going to get closer, right, to the those cool features we talked about before, right? In the future, ideally, like in the morning, Alex, you get a cup of coffee, right? Just one click, I can enjoy the smell remotely, right? Something like that. And for sure, remote hug, remote handshaking, live translation, all those features, I think we will build in. Ultimately, seriously, I think the future, the Zoom video conferencing experience can truly deliver a better experience than this experience, than face-to-face in-person meeting.
So are you saying the conference room will disappear?
Everywhere is conference room, and no conference room is needed anymore, because at that time I think very touchable, big, maybe it's 3D, the curve display, right, and a screen. There's one click, you can talk with anyone in the world, speak your own native language, and also you feel like you and I are sitting together in the local Starbucks coffee, right? I think that's world we're going to live in the future.
What's the implication to the commercial real estate if a conference room would be all down?
Good question. And good news, I do not invest to that market, and I have no idea. So
we have a few more questions. Yes.
I think Xuedong asked Eric one question, like few questions before. It's about like Eric, if you don't do Zoom right now, which area would you work on? I'm pretty sure you're gonna successfully like any of the area you pick, but you pick healthcare. So my question is, so there are so many problems out there in the world and so much inefficiencies. I'm trying to understand like your sort process of finding the areas you want to work on, or how you land on healthcare.
yeah, so her question really back to the question, you don't ask about it earlier, right? So if I start over today, and why I pick up healthcare, right? Given that there's so many other opportunities out there, right? I think that, there's several reasons. First of all, if you look at last year, what had happened, right? It's a nightmare for all of us, right? You look at the technology, right? We have greatest technology, AI, and the internet, almost everything. Finally, just a virus, a small virus, made it the whole world out of control, right? You realize, wow, this is one great example. That's why so many, I think the good news, so many students, they are going to learn biohack, right? Not only for computer science. And also look at today's population, right? The aging, right? And you look at almost the every developed country, right? You look at the percentage of population, right? The aging is becoming a big problem, right? And look at all those problems, right? You always start with problems, right? Because all those problems are bigger problems, the huge problem. Because the problem in itself is huge. That's why there are so many opportunities, right? You look at medicine as well, right? Robotics, technology, right? It's for surgery. There's so many things you can focus on, right? In the healthcare, right? Another big market is for sure the climate change, the sustainability of the society, and also there's a lot of opportunities. And however, it's kind of I do not have that background. It's really hard for me to do. And yeah, maybe AI can help for climate change. For me, I still see
this happens to be what exactly the Gates Foundation focused on: healthcare, climate change, and education.
Yes. So yeah, should we
really
education
with Bill Gates on the priority?
Education. I mean, seriously, that's another way to look at it. This is a great example, right? If you do not have a good idea, look at all those the very successful leaders like Bill Gates, right? Look at what his foundation, what kind of things they are focusing on, right? Education, healthcare, and climate change, right? Maybe you can do something. So.
Yeah, I think my problem is now like I don't have I see there are so many problems. That's why we need to decide what area to work on. But there are so many problems out there. So yeah, those are all exciting problems that we need to solve them. I guess we can come from our inside, see where our passion lands, or we can come from you suggested, you come from what are the leaders doing, and those are the big problems. So yeah, trying to understand more sides of thinking on the healthcare part. But I guess yeah, they just shared a lot of that.
So may I suggest a few words? I would say forget about what we told you. Pick your own area, and if you are passionate about what you do, you'll be super successful.
Very true. Very true.
Just like what Eric said, ignore the competition. Try and focus on deliver the best. If you deliver the best, you will create the value.
For Xuedong. So my question is, for when I proposed the AI project to the executive team, they always wonder what's the monetization model strategy, how does it impact the company revenues, how does it impact, how can earning money from customers. So also for an investor, you also always care about what's the impact of revenues and those things factors. So my question is that when I how to define the success AI products for a company?
AI product always take years to develop, like 5 to 10 years. So given that, how you define the success of AI product for larger company and also for enterprise?
Okay, I can do, you can add. I just want to actually give you some examples of how Samsung, they are creating world-class smart TVs. That process is actually fairly complicated. So they deployed Microsoft Metrics Advisor in monitoring the whole process and dramatically improved the efficiency. The return of investment is phenomenal. So that's just one example of deploy AI customized for their own needs. So that's for any organization, if you can really say you can deploy this one in the shortest amount of time, you can achieve business goal, you get the blessing from the CEO. I'm sure that is the case for Zoom. If say someone in Zoom can really say, come to Azure Cognitive Services, apply this feature, Zoom's revenue will go up or profit margin will go up, I'm sure he will be happy.
Yes, absolutely.
So you could give like multiple years investment. So you take a risk. So actually, the return on the product is not as expected. So how do you evaluate the?
So that is that's your job, right? Identify the right solution, get the amount of data, optimize for the right objective function. Really, OKR is important. You have to have the clarity. For Microsoft Azure AI is very clear. I have 3 things. I only remember 3 things. The best horsepower on AI quality, the lowest cost, because if you have high quality, it's too expensive, nobody will buy. And the delight customers, customer happiness. You drive those 3, I guarantee the business will be healthy. For your adoption, it's similar, right? You want to have best quality to delight your own customers. You don't want to pay a lot of money. Eventually, the first 2 is to lead to a happy customer.
Yeah, I understand. Thank you for the answer. Sorry, I played the name in the beginning, so you can remember my name.
Eric can probably add his own words. I didn't want to speak.
No, you can't change your name back.
I just want to add Eric to get his better answer than what I just said. You want to add a few?
No, your answer is perfect.
I think it's probably
one more question.
Like permit.
We have got some new questions from people who have not asked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. I have a short question, right? So today we talk about, AI seems perfect. Like, we want to write a Tesla is 100% perfect, right? That's like a novel technology. That's like better accuracy. We also talk about we have novel problems. Maybe the kind of old technology can solve this problem. Let's understand the problem. Between the kind of better technology or even more accurate AI algorithms and kind of find a problem maybe with old, algorithm to solve, right? What's more important? What's less important from your perspective?
As an engineer, I want to have the best quality, lowest cost. As a CEO, he wants happy customers. I think you need a combination of 3.
Yeah, so your question really about the problem and technology and so on and so forth. I would say forget about technology for now. You got to take a step back to understand what's the problem first, right? Technology really second. Technology more like a tools to help you to address that problem, right? Don't just start off from a technology perspective, especially for engineers, right? You understand the technology. You try to build a solution to find a problem. Very likely to be failed. You start from problem. Even if you're not an engineer, you still can address the problem. You can recruit engineers, right? So focus on the problem. That's extremely important. And make sure that problem is not a small problem, right? Make sure that a problem, is sustainable, right? Your solution is sustainable. Make sure that problem is, your solution can truly make the world better, right? Meaning deliver value, right? Always start from problem. Forget about technology. Even AI is so important.
Thank you. I'll find a problem and use Microsoft AI to solve this.
Yeah. Ideally, the problem is, let's say if you start a company, ideally the problem will be the problem you personally, experienced, right? That's the ideal case, right?
the problem is sometimes the problem is too big, right?
Yeah.
You do not have a solution. Nobody has a solution. You know, we all want AGI, and it doesn't exist. So you have to really be realistic, be educated as well.
Totally right.
Last question, is that right? Are we over time?
Yeah, let me
Yeah.
last the burning question. If you have.
Last
my
question.
question is pretty straightforward. Like, what would be your like top three advices to the engineer who want to start their own company? You know, like as an engineer who started your own company, you know, pretty successful. Like, what would be your top three suggestions for?
So your question is with an engineer background, right? Or engineers, what's the top three advice to start a company, right?
Yeah.
I think where should I start? So I would say first of all, just do it. So I would, because seriously, a lot of times, you know, engineers ask for, hey, what's the advice? What should do this? You know, after you hear about those advice, you're very excited. 2 weeks later, you forgot about everything because you don't want to do it. So I think more like you want to learn how to swim, you better go to the swimming pool first, right? Otherwise, you always talk about that. You know, I think seriously, number one thing, just do it. If this is your passion, just do it. And you know, I think that's very, very important. Like if you already say, yeah, I decided to do it no matter what, you know, that's number one thing. Number two thing is, you know, for engineer background, I think ideally, you learn some go-to-market, you know, and skills, you know, marketing or sales, or that's very important. Ideally, case, right? If you say I really hard, that's not my personality, that's fun too. You can recruit some co-founders or recruit a team to help you out. That's okay too, right? You just do it, and also make sure learn some, you know, other skills. And number three, I would say be patient. Wait for that luck. That's it. Luck will come.
Okay, this is fantastic. Thank you, Eric. I really feel that you are a role model and inspiration.
You are my role
so many dream to really